In September 1520, the plague had reached the Valley of Mexico, and in October it entered the gates of the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, a magnificent metropolis of 250,000 people. Within 2 months, at least a third of the population perished, including the Aztec Emperor Xitlahua. Whereas in March 1520, when the Spanish fleet arrived, Mexico was home to 22 million people. By December, only 14 million were still alive. Smallpox was only the first blow, while the new Spanish masters were busy enriching themselves and exploiting the natives. Deadly waves of flu, measles, and other infectious diseases struck Mexico one after the another until in 1580 its population was down to less than 2 million. 2 centuries later, on 18 January 1778, the British Emperor Captain James Cook reached Hawaii. The Hawaiian Islands were densely populated by 500,000 people who lived in complete isolation from both Europe and America and consequently had never been exposed to European and American diseases. Captain Cook and his men introduced the first flu, tuberculosis, and syphilis pathogens to Hawaii. Subsequent European visitors added typhoid and smallpox. By 1853, only 70,000 survivors remained in Hawaii. Epidemics continued to kill tens of millions of people. Well, in the 20th century, in January 1918, soldiers in the trenches of northern France began dying in their thousands from a particularly virulent strain of flu nicknamed the Spanish flu. On the front line was the end front of the most efficient global supply network the world had hitherto seen. Men and munitions were pouring in from Britain, the USA, India, and Australia. Oil was sent from the Middle East, grain and beef from Argentina, rubber from Malaya, and copper from Congo. In exchange, they all got Spanish flu. Within a few months, about 500,000 people, a third of global population, came down with the virus. In India, it killed 5% of the population, that is about 15 million people. On the island of Tahiti, 14% died. On Somao, 20%. In the copper mines of Congo, 1 out of 5 laborers perished. Altogether, the pandemic killed between 50 million and 100 million in less than a year. The First World War killed 40 million from 1940 to 1918, alongside epidemical tsunamis that struck humankind every few decades. People also faced smaller but more regular waves of infectious disease which killed millions every year. Children who lacked immunity were particularly susceptible to them, hence they are called childhood diseases. Until the 20th century, about a third child died before reaching adulthood from a combination of malnutrition and disease. During the last century, humankind became ever more vulnerable to epidemics due to a combination of growing populations and better transport. A modern metropolis such as Tokyo or Kinshasa offers pathogens far richer hunting grounds than medieval Florence or 1520 Tenochtitlan, and the global transport network is today even more efficient than 1918 it was. A Spanish virus can make its way to Congo or Tahiti in less than 24 hours. We should therefore have expected to live in an epidemiological hell with one